All right, guys, let's get away from this whole fake fight stuff. Let's get away from this, Twitter beef, the celebrity boxing. Let's get away from that stuff, man. Let's get back to the real fights, back to the stuff that we actually love. And despite me making videos, and I know some of you guys that follow me and comment and everything, I know we've all shared that maybe we don't like as gimmicky as the UFC is becoming. We don't like how they're chasing money, their views, all these things. It feels like they're selling out a little bit with the BMF belt, with the whole WWE merger, all these things. This is why we come back. This is why UFC's king. This is why MMA will always be king. This is why all of it, man. This is the as real as it gets type stuff. There is not a better fight out there in combat sports currently than there is with Islam Makhachev and Alexander Volkanovski. And we finally get to get it this weekend, guys. The rematch that we've all wanted since February. And I was worried. I'm not going to lie to you guys. I was worried. It's the UFC. It happens all the time. It happens in, it doesn't matter what league, what sport, no matter what it is. If we want to see Anthony Joshua versus Tyson Fury, they got to do it right then and there. If we were ever going to see Anderson Silva and GSP, the time that we should have had it, Dana White's like, oh, maybe one or two more defenses by both guys. And, GSP goes out there and retires. And because Johnny Hendricks gives him the work, Anderson Silva loses to Chris Weidman. Like, it never happens the way that it should happen. And after that, we got that in February, I was so worried. Once they announced Yair Rodriguez versus Volk, once they announced Charles Oliveira versus Islam, I was like, man, we're never going to get it. Because you never know. Charles could be Islam. Islam could get hurt. Volkanovski could get hurt like he did with his hand. He could have lost to Yair, and then now we got to get a rematch with that. Like, there's always something that usually happens in Charles Oliveira, despite this being on 10 days notice, and despite that Charles did deserve it, it finally happened. And this is what we want, man. And I'm telling you guys right now, I get it. I get that it's 10-day notice for Volk. I get it and everything. I just don't know why I'm leaning Volkanovski still. There's some big reasons that I'm leaning towards him. Number one fact I will say, I love when fighters get to stay active and get a different matchup in between fights. We just saw it with Israel Adesanya said it. We see it all the time. It's not quite 4 fights like we saw with, Moreno and Figueiredo, but we see it all the time when these guys fight back-to-back times or whatever, where it's, oh, man, it gets super hard to just fight for the same guy and to train for the same guy in the same style for however many months, up to a year, whatever it may be. And for for Volk to stay active and go back down, beat Yair Rodriguez the way that he beat him in July, I do love that. I love the activity. Another reason I think I'm leaning Volk is, I'm not too. I don't think the first fight, or I don't think this fight's going to be as good as the first fight. That is another thing. 100%. There's no way. Rematches never turn out to be as good as the first one. And I do think the confidence is a huge thing here. I think whatever happened in the last end of that fight, the tail end of that fight, especially in round 5 and more like round 3, because round 4 Islam had a lot of control but didn't do anything with it. Round 5. I'm telling you guys right now, that swing, that the confidence of Volk has, Islam had his back for however 8 minutes, 7 minutes, 6 minutes of that fight and couldn't submit him. And I'm telling you guys, man, you can't give Volkanovski any confidence at all. And I'm telling you, when that cage door closed, how is Islam going to react to being in Volk, in the same octagon as Volk again, when he's sitting there like, oh shit, will flashbacks happen where he's getting his ass beat in that 5th round and Volk's on top of him, or he's got Volk's back and Volk's yelling at him and punching him in the face. Like, I'm telling you guys, you never know. And I don't think Khabib's going to be in his corner. I hope he does. Like, I know he's been training with him again, but it seems like Khabib is officially retired from corners. If he was going to be in there, I thought he would have done it with Umar this past weekend at Bellator, which is like, I can't remember if it's brother or his cousin, but they're closer than technically Islam and Khabib are. So if he's not going to be there for him, I don't think he's going to be there for Islam. And that played a huge factor as well in that first fight. That was the first time Islam didn't have Khabib in the corner. And I know these are all small things, but this is what happens in the fight game. This is what changes everything. I'm telling you guys. And yeah, 10 days notice, cool. We're all hearing this 10 days notice thing. This isn't going to be one of them fights that feel like a 10-day notice fight. Like, Volkanovski and Islam Makhachev are two of the most professional guys you will ever see. They're the ones training all year round. They're the most disciplined dudes out there. Literally championship, material, quite literally. If there's ever going to be a bad matchup for somebody to come in off 10 days notice, it's Volk and Islam both. They're number 1A and number 1B. And guess who both guys are taking 10 days notice on? Not only did Islam just train for Charles Oliveira for however many months, now he's got to switch up in 10 days notice and go with a way harder stylistic matchup, a way shorter guy, a way harder guy to get down, a way harder guy to get a submission on, a way harder guy to hit, because guess what? Volkanovski doesn't swing as wild as Charles Oliveira does, doesn't do as many wild strikes as Charles Oliveira does, doesn't leave himself open. And I'm telling you, this is a way harder matchup. And there's no way, for most times, if we're talking 10 days notice, all right, yeah, the guy's coming in off 10 days notice. He's gonna be a little more out of shape. He's gonna be, probably gonna gas early. So he's gonna come out strong and really strong, and he's gonna tail off towards the end. And as long as the guy that's actually, been training and ready for the camp, as long as he can stay out of the way and just push the pace a little bit, and then he'll get him out there later in the end of the rounds. Yeah, that's cool, but that's just not going to happen. When have we ever seen Volkanovski tired? You know what I'm saying? I don't know, man. And, I feel bad, too, because I just spent a whole, 2 videos last week talking about how I felt bad for Islam and how I think he's underrated. And, it's not his fault, I don't think. I just think it's, the Volk fight, yes, where he finally looks human. And it's the first Dagestani that's that dominant we've seen in a close fight. But it also, he just so happens to be Khabib's, right-hand man. He's the number 2 guy that's ever come out of Dagestani wrestling, or this Dagestani culture that we see all the time. So yeah, he's gonna just feel like a copy paste version of Khabib. It's like it, and I did say this about Ian Gary as well. No matter who it is out of Ireland, like whoever it's gonna be, people are gonna be like, oh, okay, it's just the next coming of Conor McGregor. So it's not fair to Islam. But I'm also sitting here, man, I'm just really like Volkanovski, guys. I think he has less to lose in this fight. I think Islam has way more to prove. A lot of people thought Volk won last fight. A lot of people thought Islam won. No matter who you thought won, you got to respect both guys. They both went out there. Both did it. It lived up to the number 1 pound for pound, number 2 pound for pound guys. It was a phenomenal fight. And yes, this time Islam's at home. Last time he fought in Volkanovski's home. This time he's at home in a way. Even though it's in Abu Dhabi, it's still closer, and he's going to have a lot of the Russians, a lot of the Dagestani culture there. So it's going to be exciting. So I don't know what to expect. I just know that this fight is not going to be a 5-round war. It's going to be good, I think. I just don't think it's going to be as good when it comes to a 5-round war back and forth like the first one was. The rematches usually never do. So, but absolutely hats off to both guys for saving this damn card. Shouts out to Kamaru Usman and Hamza Chimaev for saving this card as well, for both staying on, especially Islam and Hamza. I think people are going to be more excited out of Usman and, Volk for stepping up on 10 days notice. But it takes some real balls to stay in there and be like, ooh, championship fight or number 1 contenders match, and I'm staying in here. Like, that's a big thing, man. So shouts out to both guys. Both fights are about to be phenomenal. I'll do a video later about Usman. But I don't know, guys. I'm probably going to be switching all week, but I'm just feeling Volk, dude. I'm going Team Volk right now. I don't know why. There's just something about it, and I do like how he stayed a little more active. I like when guys stay active. Like I said, we just heard from Islam. We hear from people all the time, or not Islam, but Israel Adesanya. We hear from people all the time where it's tough to train back to back and have, the same fight back to back or fight camps back to back. And yes, luckily Islam trained for Charles for a few months, but he hasn't fought anybody else other than Volk since February. And I'm telling you, Volk, that stuff helps, man. I don't know. So I'm just feeling Volk for some reason, but shouts out to both guys. I'm rooting for both. I don't think clearly I probably a little more biased towards Volkanovski just because I love the guy, but I'm telling you, man, legacy's on the line, and Volkanovski might just pull it out. So 10 days notice, double champ. Let's go, baby. So UFC 294 this weekend, the MMA short show as always. Your boy, Steven Moustaris, and let's go.